no matter what path you choose to walk, and whether you believe or not, you can be certain that a fairy is watching.
Hello, fairy finders and fairy seekers. Welcome to FaerieQuest and another episode of Real Fairies in Real Photos. This is part 2 of the Hagstone video. If you haven't seen part 1, I'll put a link to it up in the right-hand corner of the screen, or you can see it from the description box below. Now, this Hagstone on the screen is the one that I found. The one in the part 1 Hagstone video was one that my husband found. If you'd like to see them side by side, they're on the thumbnail. So I am forming a theory here after using both stones. So if you're interested in that theory, hang on to the end. But for now, let's take a look at what this stone found for us. What kind of fairy realm did we see? So if you remember, I was going to actually take 5 photos after looking through the hole on each stone and see which stone actually shared the fairy realm the best. All right, and so we are on photo number 1 here for the Hagstone, the one that I found. And as you can see, there are 4 boxes on the screen for this first original photograph. There's an X for the one at the top in the middle. That means that it was too small for me to share with you. It just didn't get larger and look like anything. I can tell what it is, but you would not be able to. So here's the first picture, and I'm going to show you the other 3 individually. The 3 pictures you're about to see are quite blurred, and this was another zoom issue with my camera as I was trying to get a little closer to the area that I felt like I was pulled to through the hole in the Hagstone. So this first picture shows us a portion of a fae, and we can see her face. She's wearing glasses. We can see her nose and her mouth. We can see a lot of hair. This fae has a lot of hair, and we can see one hand. This fairy reminds me of something that you might see in a Charlie Brown cartoon. We can see hair. Her hair or his hair is parted on the side. We can see the face, but the eyes seem to be covered, and the nose is rather large in the center. And we also see an arm outstretched and the hand reaching for something. Now the nose in the center of her face seems to be a little bit on the yellow side. That could be lighting, or maybe she or he just wasn't blended quite as much as they thought they were. Well, if ever there was a Halloween Fae, I think this one would be it. Obviously, this one has hair. It has eyes, nose, and a mouth. I didn't think you really needed me to label this one. It's pretty clear. And it looks somewhat skeletal. Kind of similar to one that we saw in the first video, part 1, only we had a little bit more detail to that one than we have to this one. But you can't really miss it, and it seems to be a very jovial looking skeleton-like fae. Picture number 2, and we have only one rectangular box down in the center bottom of this picture, and that's all that I could find on here. There might be a few more, but they just weren't clear enough for me to really want to share them with you. So let's take a look at the one we did find a little closer. This fae looks as though it has melded itself into a part of a tree or a branch. Either that or it's like between branches. At any rate, we can see that the face is created by light to some extent. And we can see a forehead, we see eyes, we see a small nose, a mouth, an ear. And the head seems to be kind of formed by the sticks or the trunk, or I'm not sure if that's an actual tree or just a branch on a tree. I think it's a branch on a tree or a small tree growing next to the really large one. In picture number 3, we have 2 fairies, and they are not very far apart. There again might be more fairies in this photograph, however, they were not clear enough to share. So let's take a look at these guys a little closer. Here we have another fairy that has formed itself through the light on the tree, but it's very clear that we have 2 eyes and a nose. We can't see much else of this fairy, but that stands out very, very clearly. So this one is one of those that was probably out in the open and quick merged itself into the tree when it heard me coming. This fairy doesn't look all that pleased to see me. The expression on the face, I don't want to call it shock. I'm not really sure what to call it. Maybe it does have kind of the O of the mouth, like, oh, there's a human here. Anyway, we can see the pointed hat. We see a very pale face. We can see an ear, and we see a hand, which obviously you can connect the upper part of the body and a little bit below the hand, but we can't see much else. Picture number 4, and this one has 5 red boxes on it that shows that we have 5 fairies. Not real sure as to how well you will be able to see these. I could see them, but again, when we enlarge them, they get quite blurred. Even though this picture, there was no zoom on it, so that makes a big difference in how this original picture is. It's not blurred, but we'll see. I hope you can see the fairies that are in it. This fairy seems a bit ghostly to me. We can see that it has a hood on, a black hood, and this hood seems to go down in like cloak form all the way down each side of the body. And then we see a mustache. It's a very long mustache. I've pointed out where it begins, and then also as far down as it looks like it goes. It kind of has a hazy appearance to it, but you can tell it's all one long piece. Then we see the eyes. It is looking up and to the left. As we look at it, it would be looking up and to the right for itself. But this is a very unique looking fairy. We can tell it has kind of a human face, but the whiskers and everything are pretty impressive. So in my opinion, this fairy is clearest where the eyes are. Otherwise, it is kind of difficult to actually see, but I think that it is a fairy with a backpack on, which I did not label. It does have a hat on, and we can see the eyes very clearly, the nose between the eyes, obviously a little bit down, maybe a little bit of the mouth, and what I've labeled as a hand and an arm, I'm not positive on that, but I'll let you decide what you are seeing with this. This fairy is really cattywampus. And I say that because I feel like it was trying to form itself. And we can see the eyes very clearly, the green glowy eyes. And I do believe those are glasses. But if you look above the eyes, we can also see eyebrows, but they're kind of off center. And then the glasses are off center. It's either that or we startled the poor thing to the point where it kind of knocked its glasses askew, which makes everything look as though the face is all wonky. Anyway, we can see a hat, we see a face, at least the glasses and the eyebrows, and perhaps a bit of the eyes. We can see an arm and a hand. The rest of the body is a little difficult to tell where it is, and I do believe when I'm looking at the picture on the left, I can see where like the shoulder and the other arm are, and also the knee, but I wasn't positive, so I did not label those. Here we have a very stocky built fairy. At least we can see a part of him. We're looking at the hat, which is kind of a little bit taller and more flat on the top than what we're used to seeing in hats. We can see a cheek. We can see the nose, which kind of takes over pretty much all of the face. And we see a hand that actually has fingers and knuckles. We also have something under the nose that I believe is food, but that's just a guess. This is a very unusual looking fairy. Here we have a fairy being that is very green, not quite blended enough though. Kind of stuck out a little bit. This one has kind of a striped pointed hat, and we can see the light on the top of the hat, which is probably what attracted me to it anyway, made me see it. And then this one has kind of a very uniquely shaped face. We can see the dark eyes, we can see the nose, and the chin is extremely pointed in comparison to the other beings that we've seen. We can also see the body, though we can't really see a whole lot of detail in the body. I do believe this one is wearing a coat, but that's just a guess. So that is it for this second Hagstone. In fact, there were only 4 pictures that had any fairies in them at all. The 5th picture did not have anything. Now I feel this video is kind of anticlimactic in comparison to the first Hagstone video, which offered up so many amazing fairies in it. So my theory here is that a Hagstone that you find will not work for you as well as a Hagstone that is perhaps gifted to you. And my husband didn't necessarily gift me the Hagstone. However, he handed it over to me to clean and to use in whatever way that I needed to. So I'm calling that gifted. Maybe if I had gifted him the Hagstone that I found and he were to go and take pictures, maybe he would have better results than I had this time. So I apologize for the kind of lack of clear fairies in this video, but I promised a part 2 and I had to fulfill that. But that's my theory. Maybe the Hagstone should be gifted, and that would allow you to see the Faerie Realm much more clearly. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for viewing. Take care.